sun is certainly shining bright on St. Petersburg and the hard workers who call our city home. On Thursday, our City Council will vote on a proposed wage theft ordinance. This ordinance is just the latest in our series of City of Opportunity initiatives. In 2014, we raised our minimum wage so that no City of St. Petersburg employee would earn less than $12.50 an hour. We did away with the checkbox on employment applications so that everyone could get a fair shake before disclosing a felony conviction. We led the way in implementing a paid parental leave policy so that expectant or adoptive moms and dads would not have to worry so much about finances during the most important and stressful times of their lives. And on Thursday, we have the opportunity to extend our reach, to look out for those who don't work for the City of St. Petersburg, but who are the victims of something we don't want happening in our city: wage theft. Soon, we will begin to look out for our residents by cracking down on unscrupulous employers. And it will be because of the efforts of Councilmember Darden Rice. Now, before Darden speaks, I'd like to recognize a few elected officials and officials who are with us here today. My Deputy Mayor, Dr. Kanika Tomlin, our City Council Chair, Charlie Gertis, and Pinellas County Commissioner Ken Welch. Thank you all for being here and supporting this very important initiative. And with that, I'd like to introduce Councilmember Darden Rice. Darden.
Good morning, everyone. We are here today because wage theft is a real problem that must be addressed. Pinellas ranks third in the state for wage theft, and over a 2-year period between 2012 and 2014, federal data showed that approximately 15,000 Pinellas County residents filed wage theft claims at about $500 each, totaling $7.5 million. And that is just a glimpse of the problem, since wage theft often goes unreported. A large percentage of the workforce is not covered by federal or state protections, so many cases go unreported. Most people are unlikely to report claims, or maybe they don't even know where to file a report. Easily, we know that the incident of wage theft is likely to be 2 or 3 times higher than what the federal statistics are that I just shared. So why is Florida so vulnerable? In 2000, Florida dismantled the state's Department of Labor and Employment Security. The Agency for Workforce Innovation does not handle wage and hour complaints. Neither does the state have any equivalent of the U.S. Department of Labor to investigate wage theft complaints, much less to enforce the minimum wage laws. So there are very few avenues for redress, and the combination of inadequate enforcement and exemptions leaves employees vulnerable to wage theft. Not everyone wants to go through the time and trouble to hire an attorney. For those who even know that could be an option. So a local wage theft ordinance gives individuals the opportunity to take action on their own to recover lost wages from their employers through a city-run administrative process, rather than having to find a lawyer and pursue a costly court case to enforce their right. But of course, if they do choose to find an attorney, they certainly have the right to do so. Our lowest paid workers, maybe due to a lack of knowledge of the law or a reluctance to exercise their rights, are vulnerable to these types of labor violations. But we also know that wage theft happens to higher level workers as well. So that is why we need local action. It's for our citizens of St. Pete, as we stand here on the steps of City Hall, it's our responsibility to look out for our residents, because without local action, there's very little capacity to respond to wage theft. So, how does a wage theft ordinance work? Well, under the City of St. Pete's proposed wage theft ordinance, the city will establish a review and implementation process that first attempts to conciliate any claims by notifying the employer of the filed claim and asking both parties to provide supporting documents. The employer must provide payroll records. If the employer fails to maintain payroll records, that's a violation of existing federal labor laws. Should city staff be unable to reconcile a claim, the case is sent to a hearing examiner. And if a hearing examiner finds an employer guilty of violating the wage theft ordinance, the employer becomes liable for the original wages owed, plus an additional amount equal to 2 times the wages owed to compensation of the worker. Additionally, the employer will be liable to the city for the cost of the hearing examiner and administrative fees. The threshold for filing a claim is $60. The incident will have had to have taken place in the past year, and there is no cost for filing the complaint. So, will this work? We modeled this ordinance based on the Miami-Dade ordinance, which has already been held up to challenges in state court. So we know that legally our ordinance is sound. We also know that the wage theft ordinance in Miami to date has recovered over $3 million in unpaid wages since 2010. The money that goes to low-wage employees is almost always circulated back to the local economy. Now, money that goes to employers can get circulated back to the economy too, or it can go to a vacation in Hawaii or to investments overseas. But we do know for sure that low-wage workers usually almost always circulate their money locally. And at any rate, the money belongs in the pocket of the employee who earned the wages rightfully in the first place. Speaking of minimum wage, tomorrow on these very steps, we are going to hear from Fight for 15, a group that's working to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour in Florida. Mayor Kreisman has taken the important step of raising the city's wages to $12.50 an hour. And efforts to raise the minimum wage, including the steps our own city has taken, is a strong step in the right direction. But here again is the reason why a wage theft ordinance is so important. It doesn't matter if you have a minimum wage law if there's no consequences for violating the law. The minimum wage law needs to be backed up with strong enforcement mechanisms to make sure employees get their full wages for the work that they've done. How many civil actions has the Florida Attorney General brought forth to enforce the minimum wage law passed in 2004? Well, as of last year, the answer is 0. Where we lack state protections and leadership, we need to step up locally, and that's exactly what we're doing today. And we're doing this because all of us get hurt. All of us get hurt when bad faith employers violate wage laws, even those of us who make much more than minimum wage. A wage theft ordinance protects businesses who do the right thing. It provides a fair playing field for the majority of fair businesses who pay their employees fairly and honestly, and protects them against the competition of unscrupulous competitors who don't pay their employees what they're owed. A strong wage theft ordinance sends the right kind of message about our values as a city and how we look out for everyone who lives and works here. I would especially like to thank Mayor Kreisman for his strong support of this ordinance. Mayor Kreisman has been instrumental in recognizing the urgency of getting this passed and supported by city staff. More than that, Mayor Kreisman has made strong recommendations to beef up the enforcement of wage theft protection, so that the city will continue to explore ways to crack down on bad actors who repeatedly come before the hearing officer with proven wage theft violations. We are also notably in the era of unprecedented cooperation between the city and county. So stay tuned as Pinellas County takes up wage theft protection under the trusted leadership of Commissioner Ken Welch, who is with us here today. Together, we will continue to pursue ways to make this ordinance work on a larger level with more resources and more enforcement. I would also like to thank my City Council colleagues and Chairman Charlie Gertis, who so far have supported this proposal unanimously every step in the way, and who have added important, insightful observations and suggestions to make the first draft even stronger. We want our businesses to be seen as both strong and fair, and we want them competitively positioned to get the best workers. This is just good economics, and it's part of making the city strong and why the sun shines here in St. Pete.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us out here today. And I noticed when we pulled up, it was a little cloudy, and the sun has come out once again, and the sun is definitely shining on us. This is a great day, and these are the days that I love. It was about a year ago that I was at Earth Day Festival and saw this solar charging station and thought, man, this is really cool. If we're a green city, this is something we need to have. So I said to Mike Connors, Mike, come over here. You got to see this thing. And Mike walks over. I said, we need something like this. And he says, Mayor, I think we can build these ourselves. I said, really? He said, yeah, I know our guys can do this. So we went about working on it and putting it together. And as we enter Earth Day tomorrow again at the park and celebrate Earth Day this whole weekend and following week, we thought it was a perfect time for us to unveil this program. These charging stations, we're going to have, I believe, 5 of them that are going to be located all around the city as a start. And it's really an opportunity not only for people to recharge using solar power, but again, we like the fact that people come together in our parks and have that opportunity to really truly be a community. And now they can come together as a community and charge their phones at the same time. So.
Good morning, everyone. I thank you for joining us on this, the 5th anniversary of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, as we gather to mark an event which will be remembered not only as one of this nation's largest environmental disasters, but an historic moment for marine science. Like millions of people across the Gulf states today, our thoughts are with the families of the 11 workers who died in the explosion of the Deepwater Horizon, as well as the thousands of individuals and communities who have struggled with the economic and health impacts of this disaster. As scientists and students, we have sought to measure the environmental toll of this disaster, ever mindful that the health and well-being of Gulf State residents, including our Florida residents, is inextricably linked to the Gulf of Mexico. The University of South Florida and the Florida Institute of Oceanography have long considered the Gulf a primary focus, even though 5 years ago, the Gulf was known to be one of the most understudied bodies of water in the world. Indeed, despite its economic and environmental importance, many experts would have told you back then that science knew more about outer space than the Gulf waters just outside of our door. We can no longer say that, even as we recognize the tremendous cost of the event, an event that has finally brought the significant scientific investment that has long been needed. Over the past 5 years, tens of millions of dollars in research funding and untold hours dedicated by our faculty, our students, and staff have been directed to oil spill-related research at the USF College of Marine Science and through the essential work of the Florida Institute of Oceanography. I thank you all for your tireless work and dedication. Together, we have forged national and international partnerships with other leading scientific institutions to create a powerful network to better understand how the Gulf works, what may have been damaged, and whether the Gulf is indeed recovering from this epic disaster. The research vessels operated by FIO and the extraordinary crews of the Weatherbird 2 and the Bellows have been non-stop providing a mobile scientific platform to gather critical scientific data to help inform our understanding. In the aftermath of Deepwater Horizon, we have witnessed one of the most extraordinary scientific efforts that Florida has ever seen, and perhaps, indeed, the nation. The work conducted has been a model of scientific and institutional collaboration. FIO alone has demonstrated the significant collective power of leveraging scarce public and private resources to maximize science in the public interest. Valuable new technologies have emerged from the innovative minds in this room, and the need for better tools has become apparent. And just as important, oil spill research has provided our graduate students with unparalleled learning opportunities, which undoubtedly will shape their future careers and discoveries as the next generation of scientists. But perhaps the larger, lingering lesson of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill is the stark recognition of how much we still do not know, how little we know about this complex environment upon which so much depends. The questions posed with regard to the risk and rewards of deep water drilling have yet to be fully answered, as well as the dilemma of how to balance the Gulf's environmental fragility with our economic needs. Yet, the extraordinary work conducted by the faculty and the students and the staff with us this morning, and hundreds of others, has produced meaningful change on one very important front. Science has taken its rightful place at the center of the discussion, and no longer is the Gulf of Mexico an afterthought. Because of our rapid response to this disaster, the people of Florida and the other Gulf states were served by world-class independent institutions with only one goal: to conduct the most rigorous and credible science possible. We have done what universities do best and sought the truth free from influence. Throughout these events, we have been mindful that we are privileged to inhabit institutions built through public investment, and that we exist to serve the public's need for knowledge and understanding. It is our pledge that we will continue to furnish accurate, dependable, and illuminating information that will empower the citizens of the Gulf states to make decisions about the future of the Gulf of Mexico, and, by extension, their futures as well. 5 years ago today, we could not have imagined where events would take us. But we are honored to have served our state and its citizens and to have done our part in preserving and protecting the Gulf environment that sustains and inspires us. 5 years later, we and millions of other Floridians advocate for just one simple ideal: recognition and respect for the Gulf of Mexico as a shared resource, a shared responsibility, and a shared heritage. And now it is my pleasure to turn today's program over to and much of the time, we hope, USF Representative Kathy Castor, who has played a leading role in protecting the Gulf environment and the fishermen, small businesses, and families who depend upon its health, long before this disaster and certainly after it. Some of you may recall that when our scientists had first gathered evidence that the spill had produced massive underwater plumes in the Gulf, we needed a sample of Macondo oil from the well to fingerprint the particles found in the plume. Well, we couldn't quite seem to get BP's cooperation in producing that sample until Representative Castor intervened. The rest, as many of you know, is history. That sample became a scientific linchpin that connected what we know about the Gulf environment today and the Deepwater Horizon disaster.
So what has really happened since the BP disaster 5 years ago is that the hardworking marine scientists at USF St. Pete have provided the most important data to policymakers across the country. They were the first in response on the weatherbird out into the Gulf. They surveyed the loop current, so we knew whether or not the oil was going to come onto the beaches of Florida. They provided the studies of what has happened with the dispersants combined to the oil gushing out of the well. And I'm very proud that they're going to continue their research efforts under the Restore Act that's going to bring millions of dollars to St. Petersburg for marine research.